Vihari Sanja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Sanja Vihari Jaya Gopidana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopidana Vallabha Girivardhari Asuranandana Badidana Ranjana Asuranandana Badidana Ranjana Jamuna Thera Vanachari Yamuna Thera Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kanja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kanja Vihari Jaya Gopidana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopidana Vallabha Girivardhari Asuranandana Vadajana Ranjana Asuranandana Vadajana Ranjana Jamuna Thera Vanachari Yamuna Thera Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kanja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kanja Vihari Jaya Gopidana Vallabha Girivardhari Jaya Gopidana Vallabha Girivardhari Yasodanandana Badajana Ranjana Asodanandana Badajana Ranjana Jamuna Thera Vanachari Yamuna Thera Vanachari Hare Krishna Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama Hare Rama 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 Hare 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 Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada, Jaya Prabhupada. Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Ki Jai, ISKCON Govinda Ki Jai, Govardhana Srimad Bhagavatam, Shri Caitanya Caritamrita Ki Jai, Gopal. All glories to some devotees, all glories to some devotees, all glories to some devotees, all glories to Shiyu and Shri Gauranga. So, we'll just read the verse on the board from Caitanya Caritamrita. Also, today is the auspicious victory of Lord Ram over Ravan, Ram-Vijayotsava, and also it's Madhvacarya's appearance day, so we're just speaking a little bit on that. Jai Jai Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktavinda, Jaya Jaya Shri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda, Jaya Advaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhaktavinda. Say Shri Caitanya Caritamrita Adi Lila 17.213. Gramare Takara Tumi Saba Tamarajana Nimai Balaya Tare Kara Vajana Gramera Tako Tumi Saba Tamarajana Nimai Baliya Tare Karaha Vajana Gramere Tako Tumi Saba Tamarajana Nimai Baliya Tare Kara Vajana. Kamere Tako Tumi Saba Tamarajana Nimai Baliya Tare Kara Vajana. Kamare Tako Tumi Saba Tamarajana Nimai Baliya Tare Kare Vajana. Word for word, Gramira of this town, Tako, the ruler, Tumi, you, Saba, all, Tomara, your, Jana, people, Nimai Pandit, Baliya, calling, Tare, unto him, Karaha, do, Vajana, the punishment of making him leave the town. Translation, purport goes on, Sir, you are the ruler of this town, whether Hindu or Muslims, everyone is under your protection. Therefore, please call Nimai Pandit and make him leave the town. So this is some of the referred to as Pashandis or faithless Hindus, basically. They've approached the Chankazi, the magistrate, because they're displeased with how Nimai Pandit, or Lord Caitanya, is encouraging what these Pashandis are thinking, like the low-born members of the Hindu caste. Like they're saying that only the Brahmanas should be chanting the holy name. If the unqualified people chant, then the holy name will lose its potency. So they've come to Chankazi to try to get Nimai Pandit kicked out of the village. That's why it's interesting, the origin of the word fired. You know, like if you get fired from a job, it's similar to, it's like if you want someone to leave the village but you don't want to kill them, when they're out of the house, you burn the house down. In other words, you fire the house. So they've got nowhere to live, so they have to leave. So when you're fired, it means the origin is your house has been burnt down. So they're asking Nimai Pandit to be fired from the village. So purport by Srila Prabhupada, the word Thakur has two meanings. One meaning is God or a godly person, and another meaning is Kshatriya. Here the Pashandi Brahmanas address the Kazi as Thakur, considering him the ruler of the town. There are different names by which to address the members of different castes. The Brahmanas are addressed as Maharaj, the Kshatriyas as Thakur, Vaishyas as Seta or Mahajan, and the Sudras as Chaudhary. This etiquette is still followed in northern India, where the Kshatriyas are addressed as Thakur Shab. The Pashandis went so far as to request the magistrate or Qazi to have Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu expelled from the town because of his introducing Harinam Sankirtan. Fortunately, our Hare Krishna movement all over the world, especially in the civilized world of Europe and America, has become very popular. Generally, no one complains against us to have us removed from a city, although such an attempt was indeed made in Melbourne, Australia. The attempt failed. Thus, we are now introducing this Hare Krishna movement in great cities of the world like New York, London, Paris, Tokyo, Sydney, Melbourne and Auckland. And by the grace of Lord Caitanya Mahaprabhu, everything is going on nicely. People are happy to accept the principle of chanting the Hare Krishna mantra, and the result is most satisfactory. Korma Prabhu, he writes in the history of the Hare Krishna movement in Australia, Great Transcendental Adventure. He mentions that the devotees were collecting fundraising in Darwin, and they were kicked out by the police, kicked out of the city. And he comments that about 3 days later, it was during the Christmas marathon, about 3 days later, Cyclone Tracy hit Darwin and basically destroyed the city. So maybe there's a lesson there somewhere. But it's interesting if you compare the purports to in Srimad Bhagavatam, Caitanya Charitamrita. In Caitanya Charitamrita, Prabhupada, he gives a lot of contemporary sort of comments about ISKCON worldwide. Like this one, for instance, he's commenting on the preaching that's going on around the world. So he is very while Srimad Bhagavatam, maybe there's some comment to some degree, but particularly Caitanya Charitamrita, many of the purports he mentions, he's just describing how under the blessings or with the blessings of Lord Caitanya, that the the modern day Hare Krishna movement is spreading everywhere. So interesting to note that Lord Caitanya, he appeared in West Bengal when it was under the occupational government of the Muslim rulers. But Lord Caitanya, he had no regard at all for this Muslim occupational government. He just performed his Sankirtan movement, and there was at one time when one of the Muslim officers, I think he was a Hindu, but he was working within the Muslim government. He was afraid that because of Lord Caitanya's influence, the Qazi was going to send his soldiers and kill Lord Caitanya or destroy the village, do some sort of grievous activity. So he came to request Lord Caitanya to move on, so he doesn't upset the local Muslim rulers. But because the kirtan was going on so much day after day, that officer had no opportunity to speak to anybody. And anyway, eventually he managed to get a message to Lord Caitanya. And Lord Caitanya angrily replied, "So who does this Qazi think he is? It's only by my will that he's in that position." He had no regard at all. And it's interesting that Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, that was the time of the British rule, British occupational government in India. And when Srila Prabhupada, as the young student, Abhay Charan, he first met Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. And whilst he was impressed with what Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was saying, he questioned, so who will hear this message when we're under British rule? And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said the teachings of Lord Caitanya are more important than any particular government. He had little regard of the English rulers. His focus was on of just spreading Lord Caitanya's movement. So there's perhaps one lesson that we can, regardless of whatever the material arrangement is, still it's understood that there's no material impediment for spreading the Hare Krishna movement. So while some sort of adjustment had to be made, when we had COVID and all the lockdowns, we hear all these sort of complaints, we can't do this, we can't do that, we're locked down, but somehow or other things were going on. So regardless of what the material arrangement is, there's always opportunity. And I did hear that many devotees started selling books online during the lockdowns, and they're actually selling more books than they were on the street. So Krishna is giving the devotees intelligence that, just making adjustments according to the current situation. And Prabhupada particularly mentions that in Melbourne they were trying to stop the Hare Krishna movement, but somehow or other they weren't successful. During the Shravanam Kirtanam festival, just at the VIP table, just listened to a lot of the Prabhupada disciples speaking that, I went to jail, I went to jail, I went to jail. So many devotees. Maharaj, did you spend time inside? No, you didn't. You escaped that. So? Oh, Hobart. Okay, all right. Yeah, so great sacrifice of the devotees. Prabhupada was saying, encouraging, don't pay the fines. If you have to go to jail, go to jail. He was like the commander-in-chief. So it was interesting to hear that these devotees, they performed great sacrifice on behalf of Prabhupada and Lord Caitanya to spread the movement. And ultimately, as Prabhupada says, it's successfully spreading. So there's always going to be impediments, and there's even in one of the countries in Africa, there was devotees preaching as a very tyrant sort of ruler of the country. I forget his name, but so one Mataji Haladini Dasi and some other devotees, they were actually executed by the government. because of their preaching activities. So even some devotees, they sacrificed their life in the service of Lord Caitanya. We can understand that Lord Caitanya, he will appreciating such sacrifice, that these devotees will achieve such a auspicious destination in the next life. So, just so we don't go over time, I'm just going to touch on Ram-Vijayotsava. Of course, Ram-Vijayotsava is a festival celebrating the victory of Ram over Ravana. So, victory over Ravan and ultimately rescuing Mother Sita. So, Lord Ramachandra, as I'm sure we're aware, is the 7th avatar in the Das avatar, and among the 25 Leela avatars, he's considered the 20th avatar. So, in Srimad Bhagavatam 9:10-19, we hear Lord Ramachandra surrounded by Lakshman and the monkey soldiers, like Sugriv, Hanuman, Gandhamadana, Nila, Angada, Jambavan and Panasa attacked the soldiers of the Rakshasas headed by Ravan, who were fully equipped with various invincible weapons like swords, lances, bows, Shakti arrows, etc. A couple of verses on, Lord Ramachandra said to Ravan, "You are the most abominable of meat eaters." So he was a man-eater, he was a Rakshasa. Their favourite food was to eat other humans. Most abominable of the man-eaters, you resemble a dog, for as a dog steals edibles from the kitchen in the absence of the householder, in my absence you kidnap my wife, Sita Devi. Therefore, as Yamaraj punishes sinful men, I shall also punish you. You are the most abominable, sinful and shameless. After thus rebuking Ravan, Lord Ramachandra fixed an arrow to his bow, aimed at Ravan, and released the arrow, which pierced Ravan's heart like a thunderbolt, and thus end the life of Ravan. So, Mahavishnu Maharaj, he gave a class on Ram-Vijayotsava last year, and I'm just paraphrasing his class a little bit. It's an interesting comment he makes. He says, usually we think that the word utsav, or Vijay, or victory, applies only to the battlefield, but in the case of Lord Ram, his entire incarnation was about gaining victory over all kinds of different living entities. The Ramayana beautifully states, he gained victory over different kinds of people. There was no one who did not glorify Lord Ram. And he quotes the verse in the Ramayana, ISKCON 12.29, Satjena Lokan Jayate Dinanen Danina Raghava Guran Susrashaya Virot Demusa Yoda Shatravan. That Lord Ram conquered the worlds by truth, the poor people by his charitable nature, the teachers and sages by his service attitude, and the enemies by his mighty bow. Even the demons who thought Lord Ram to be their enemies were conquered by his qualities such as truthfulness, valour and beauty. After Lord Ram killed Vali behind the tree, Tara, the wife of Vali, glorified Lord Ram for his righteousness and his control over the senses. Maricha, who came as a golden deer, also glorified Lord Ram for his spiritual qualities and advised Ravan to make friendship with Lord Ram. Ultimately, Ravana's family was defeated by Lord Ram's valour and qualities. Supanaka, that's Ravana's sister, was conquered by his beauty. Vibhishan, who was Ravana's brother, was conquered by his merciful nature and character, and Ravan was conquered by his valour. It's one interesting story that's because Vibhishan, he was basically a devotee. He was born in the Rakshasa family, but at heart he was a devotee, and eventually he went over to Ram's side during the battle. But at one time, just to glorify Ram, he wrote, I on the wall in his house, he wrote the name Rama. And one time Ravan came to visit him, and he saw Rama written on the wall, and he became very angry, and he pulled out his sword about to kill his brother. So who do you think you are that you are putting our enemy's name on the wall? And so Vibhishan, thinking quickly, he said, no, my lord, R-A, that's for Ravan, that's for you, and M-A is for your wife. Is that... Yeah, Madhvacarya. So, and then Ravan said, oh, very good, okay. And then he ordered everybody to write Rama in every house. So in that way, Vibhishan was indirectly glorifying his Lord and just tricking Ravan. So, and Hanumanji was completely captivated by the beauty and character of Lord Ram. When Lord Ram completed his pastimes and was about to ascend to the spiritual world, he asked Hanuman to come with him. But Hanumanji replied, O Supreme King, my love for you is great and my devotion is firmly established in you. I do not want to go anywhere, leaving this world where I served you. As long as I hear Ram Katha in this world, I want to remain in this world remembering you. So that's from the Ramayana Uttara Kunda 4.15. So we know when, in the story of the Mahabharata, when Bhima, he was up big mountain, he come across like a big monkey. And anyway, there was a whole interaction there, and ultimately that was actually Hanuman, and Hanuman blessed Bhima that during the upcoming fight, the Battle of Kurukshetra, etc., that I'll be helping you in different ways. And we know that Hanuman, he was on the flag of Arjuna's chariot, and so Hanuman, he didn't want to go back with Ram, he just wanted to stay in this world. And as long as Ram Katha was being heard, he was happy to stay here. And we see that so many years after Ram Leela, still Lord Ram is conquering everybody by his narrations in Ramayana and his wonderful deity form across the globe. So many of our ISKCON temples also Sita Ram deities. And our victory in life is to acknowledge the Lord's victory in every sphere. This is done by becoming attached to him, by hearing about him, chanting his holy names and following in his footsteps. The Bhagavad Puran describes this as follows: Ditir Vaikunta Vijaya Pashanam Tat Anugraha. Bhagavatam 2.10.4. The right situation for the living entity is to obey the laws of the Lord and thus be in perfect peace of mind under protection of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And Prabhupada comments on that verse that therefore the original creator of the universe is Vishnu, and he is also the maintainer of the created beings by his causeless mercy. As such, it is the duty of all conditioned souls to acknowledge the victory of the Lord and thus become pure devotees and live peacefully in the world where miseries and dangers are always existent. So, Shri Ram-Vijayotsava ki jai. So, we just go on to Madhvacarya's appearance. So, of course, we know that there are 4 Vaishnava Acharyas: Madhvacarya, Ramanujacharya, Nimbarkacharya, and Vishnu Swami. And so they are heading up the 4 bona fide sampradayas, which originally were created by Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, the 4 Kumaras, and Lakshmi Devi. So particularly Madhvacarya is important for us because ISKCON is in the Vaishnava Sampradaya that Madhvacarya appeared in. So therefore we are called the Brahma Madhvacarya Sampradaya. So of course Lord Brahma originated with Lord Brahma, and Madhva, referring to Madhvacarya, has said that Lord Caitanya was so pleased with Madhvacarya's defeating of the Mayavadis that he chose to appear in that particular sampradaya. And Gaudiya, of course, refers to the city of Gauda, which I think it's about 200 kilometres sort of north of Navadvip. And because we know Lord Caitanya appeared in the Navadvip area, and Navadvip was more or less the capital of Bengal at that time, because that was East and West Bengal. And but after Lord Caitanya's disappearance, after some time, Navadvip's like material sort of importance began to wane, because it's always the eternal Dham, but materially speaking, it began to wane, and Gorda became more prominent. Gorda basically ruins now, but it straddles the border of West Bengal and Bangladesh. And in its heyday, probably about 1600s, it was the 5th largest city in the world, Gorda, because it was a major stopover on the Silk Road trading route. And it's said that the residents of Gorda were the highest income earners in the world, which is pretty amazing. Of course, the population at its peak was about 250,000 or so. So not a lot by this standard, but at the same time, London's population was only 50,000. So it was a major metropolis, contemporarily speaking. So because Gorda, so we hear about the Gaudiya Vaishnavas or Gorda Desh. So Gorda is always synonymous with, the Bengali Vaishnavas. So Brahma, Madhva, Gaudiya, Sampradaya. So Madhvacarya, he was born originally as Vasudev, the son of Narayan Bhatt and Vetavati in the village of Padaka Chetra near Udupi. Usually there's different dates given, but usually the one given is 1238 AD. That was on the Vijayotsava of Lord Ram, which is of course today, 786 years ago. And he lived for 79 years and disappeared 1317 AD. So there is some contention who Madhvacarya actually was. Generally it's given that he was expansion of Vayu, but sometimes people say it was also Hanuman and Bhima, or a combination of two or all three of them. But generally Vayu is connected with Vayu, generally speaking. So there are some amazing stories surrounding Madhva's early life. It is said that his father piled up many debts, and to pay them off, Madhva, with some mystic potency, he converted tamarind seeds into coins. It is also said that near Madhva's house, a demon named Manibandha lived in the form of a snake, and Madhva killed him with the big toe of his left foot. We are further told that whenever Madhva's mother was feeling anxious, he would come before her in one jump from wherever he happened to be playing. So maybe that's why they think he's Hanuman, because he can just big jumps to get where he wants to go, similar to Hanuman jumping to Lanka. Even as a young boy, Madhva was renowned as a scholar. When he was only 5, he received spiritual initiation. When he was 12, he accepts sannyas, the most renounced order of spiritual life. At that tender age, Madhva gave up all family ties to travel the length and breadth of India in quest of spiritual knowledge. In the course of his travels, Madhva visited Madhvacarya, a place of pilgrimage high in the Himalayas. There he met the great sage Srila Vyasadeva. So it's said that Srila Vyasadeva was the prominent spiritual influence in Madhva's life. I understand that he actually took initiation from him. But definitely, at least at Shiksha Guru, he was a prominent influence in his life. So Vyasadeva, of course, Lord Krishna's literary incarnation, author of Vedic literatures, and by studying under Srila Vyasadeva, Madhva grew even greater in his scholarship. After coming down from Himalayas, Madhva at last returned to his birthplace Udupi. Once, when he was sitting at the seashore and meditating on Lord Krishna, Madhva saw a merchant ship in danger and signalled the crew safely to shore. There was a big storm and the ship had danger of coming onto the rocks, but by Madhva's signalling, the ship was able to come to safety. So the captain wanted to reward Madhva and he had a big load of gopi chandan that we use for the tilak, so a big block. And so he gave this as a reward to Madhva. So as the crew members were bringing the big chunk before him, they dropped it and it broke apart, and inside was Udupi Krishna. So, broke apart and revealed a deity form of Lord Krishna with a stick in one hand, and a lump of food in the other. At that moment, Madhva composed a beautiful prayer to express his gratitude. Although the deity was so heavy that not even 30 men could lift, Madhva just picked him up and walked back home with it. So the people of Udupi still worship that Krishna deity in the way that Madhva established. Who's seen that deity here? Lots of people. Good. Yeah. I think that there is some story where that deity originated from. I think, was it Rohini who was describing how to carve, how to construct? Like the bottom half was it Madna Mohan and then Govinda and Gopinath? There was some story like that anyway. I don't know exactly, so I'm not going to speculate too much. But there was a story, the origin of that deity. Somehow or other, bless Madhvacarya. So Madhvacarya showed his overwhelming physical and spiritual strength on still other occasions. While he was walking on the road, a band of thugs attacked him, but he killed them all. Another time, a tiger attacked Madhva's companion, Satyatirtha, but Madhva pulled the fierce animal off with his bare hands. People began to say his strength had no limit. Madhvacarya's learning and devotion to Krishna were famous throughout India. His life's mission was to defeat the views of the impersonalist philosophers. So as I said, originally Lord Caitanya was pleased with Madhva's preaching to the Mayavadis. They say that God's form is, like the Mayavadis say, that God's form is simply illusion or Maya, and thus they are called Mayavadis. Even if God was a person in the beginning, these people say, he has distributed himself throughout the creation and thus lost his individual identity. Madhvacarya smashed this monistic idea with philosophy of Shuddha Dvaita, pure dualism. So all the four Vaishnavacharyas, they had a particular name for the particular philosophy they were presenting. Madhvacarya, Shuddha Dvaita, pure dualism. He proved logically that God is always a person, and is always distinct from his creation. As anyone can see, the sun is producing volumes of energy but remains the same sun. Similarly, a tree may produce many fruits but it remains the same tree. So those are the arguments that Madhvacarya used, that the sun is constantly shining but it remains complete. The tree is producing so many fruits but it remains the complete tree. Likewise, Lord Krishna produced the material world, but he himself remains separate from it. He remains the Supreme Personality Godhead. Here is the real teaching of the Vedas. Thus, Madhvacarya's teaching is called Tattvavada. Tattvavad means truth, Vada means philosophy. The Mayavadis go on to say that the soul's unique and individual identity is also an illusion, that in the end the soul will merge into an impersonal light. But Madhvacarya taught that the soul is actually the eternal servant of Krishna, and that by practicing bhakti yoga, devotional service, each of us can return to our original position in the spiritual world. Madhvacarya especially emphasised that even after the individual soul returns to the spiritual world, he and the Supreme Soul, Krishna, retain their separate identities. They do not become one. So there's a list of 9 of Madhvacarya's prominent teachings. So 1, Bhagavan Sri Krishna alone is the supreme absolute truth, one without a second. 2, he is the object of knowledge and all the Vedas. 3, the universe is Satya, real. 4, the difference between Ishvara, God, Jiva, soul, and matter are real. In other words, they're all separate entities. Jiva souls are by nature the servants of the Supreme Lord Hari. There are two categories of jivas, liberated and illusioned. Mukta, Mukbada and Jivabada. So liberated and illusioned. Liberation, moksha, means attaining the lotus feet of Bhagavan Krishna. In other words, entering an eternal relationship of service to the Supreme Lord. Of course, there's two types of moksha. One is for the impersonalists entering the Brahman, and the other is for the Vaishnavas who enter into Vaikuntha. Pure devotional service to Krishna is the only way to attain this liberation. And number 9, the truth may be known by pratyaksha, direct perception, anuman, inference or logic, and ultimately shabda, praman, spiritual sound or Vedic authority. So, Lord Caitanya, he appeared in this Kali Yuga about 500 years ago. He took initiation within this Brahma Sampradaya and establishing his philosophy of Achincha Beda Beda Tattva. So he formulated this tattva, Achincha Beda Beda Tattva, by taking 2 of the most important points from the other 4 Sampradayas. From the Brahma Sampradaya, he took Madhva's complete defeat of the Mayavad philosophy and service to Krishna's deity, accepting it as an eternal being. So those 2 points come from the Madhva line. From the Sri Sampradaya, he took the concept of bhakti unpolluted by karma and gyan and service to the Vaishnavas. From the Rudra Sampradaya, he took the sentiment of complete devotion to Krishna and the path of Raganuga, or spontaneous bhakti. And from the Kamara Sampradaya, he took the necessity of taking shelter of Radharani and the high esteem of Gopi's love for Krishna. So all these 8 points, they'll be familiar to us, within the Brahma Madhvacarya Sampradaya. However, the Achincha Beda Beda Tattva includes 13 other prominent points which are not included in those 4 Sampradayas. So Lord Caitanya, he taught that the Srimad Bhagavatam is the natural commentary, the Vedanta Sutra. The Upanishads and Vedanta Sutra are not given so much importance because they do not deal explicitly with the Bhagavan aspect of the Absolute Truth, and particularly Lord Krishna. Number 2, Krishna 2 Bhagavan Swayam is the definitive axiom for the Gaudiyas. 3, the Supreme Brahman is the Supreme Shaktiman, or energy source. It is divided into 3 Shaktis: Antaranga, or spiritual, Sandini, Sandini, Samvit, Haladini. And number 2, Bahiranga, is the material energy, and Tatastha, which is the jivas, the marginal. Number 4, Bhakti is the highest seva, not mercy meditation. No sadhana can achieve its perfection without bhakti to the Supreme Lord. Number 5, complete surrender is not a separate process from bhakti, rather it is its basic principle. Number 6, prema rather than moksha is the supreme goal. Of course, moksha is automatic. One achieves prem, pure love, automatically moksha is going to follow. Number 7, a Vaishnava has status superior to any varna or ashram. Number 8, Sri Caitanya is a combined form of Radha and Krishna. He is the Kali Yuga avatar and the bestower of Krishna Prem in the form of Gopis Bhav of Madhura Ras. And number 9, worship the Lord in his Aishvara aspect, according to Vaidhi Bhakti, brings liberation in Vaikuntha, Dwarka or Mathura, but the Lord in his Madhura aspect in Goloka is attainable only by those who are following Raganuga Bhakti. Number 10, Shanta to Vatsalya, so neutral to parental, Mathura, and Dwarka and Ioja, and friendship. Vatsalya is what's Vatsalya? Parental, yeah, that's right, I said parental. And Sakhya, or friendship, to Madhurya, conjugal, found only in Goloka. So just different moods are in Vaikuntha and also in Goloka Vrindavan. Only Krishna gives liberation to demons when he kills them. Number 12, only Gaudiyas accept super excellence of loving sentiment in the mood of Vipralamba, savour and separation. Number 13, Parakiya Bhav is the special feature in dealings between Krishna and the gopis. And just to finish off, in the Brahma Madhvacarya Sampradaya, it comes down in the mood of Aishvarya, or awe and reverence, until we get to Madhavendra Puri. And of course, Madhavendra Puri, what was his particularly famous for? Well, partly. He was the one who introduced Radha and Krishna worship together. Previous to him, Radharani was worshipped separate from Krishna. But he is the one who introduced Radha and Krishna worship together, and from him that understanding branches off in the mood of Vrindavan with the worship of Radha and Krishna together, and the mood of the gopis. And following him, of course, in the line was Ishvara Puri, Lord Caitanya, 6 Goswamis down to today. And, Srila Prabhupada is giving that same mood of worshipping Radha and Krishna together in the mood of the gopis. So, Madhvacarya ki jai. All right. So, very brief. Lots of books have been written about all these topics, but we only had 40 minutes or so. So, thank you very much. Any questions or comments at all? Okay, thank you very much. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.